This is Frank Abbruzzino with the Scoop News, and this is on the Paris Accord. And I sent out an article on it yesterday. I forwarded to the Venice City Council because they supported this. I believe Sarasota did too, but I didn't have time to check it. Basically, it came out that a congressional review found that in this report, they found that the states and cities who are supporting this are going against federal policy on climate change, and it may result in unconstitutional actions. Essentially, what Hollick and his band of banditos did is when they signed it, here's the issue, folks. And I was against it, and I remember watching the meetings. I watch all of them. Lori Setzler, the city clerk, came up and said, look, we already have something. The environmental committee put this in place. It's basically the same thing. It's already in place. In my mind, I thought, okay, why sign off and support this Paris Accord when you already got something in place? But they, in turn, looked at it and said, yep, let's move forward and sign it. And this is an initiative that Hollick was pushing like crazy, and he was having a, if you will, a debate about it with Chris Ziegler, the GOP head here in Sarasota, via email in regards to this issue. And I think he even went on that ridiculous 7 o'clock show on WWSB. I don't know who that progressive liberal is. I forget his name. And bottom line is now they're saying after this review that's unconstitutional, and I'll cover why. And basically this article said, look, there's several provisions in there that the U.S. Constitution precludes states from entering into treaties in foreign nations. Now, Hollick and his band of banditos, and I believe I don't want to say City of Sarasota because I didn't confirm it yet, but I believe they did. What they did is by signing their support for that, they essentially entered into this agreement. And what they're saying is, if you wanted to do something like that, this article, and it's CNBC, they're not right leaning, I don't think. They're more left leaning. They said you should have gotten into the cap and trade. You would have done more. So their article out there basically says that the over 200 cities and 12 states that announced their support for this accord, despite the president pulling out of it, may have committed unconstitutional acts. And this Congressional Research Service noted that the alliance could interpret the action by the states and cities as entering into a treaty with the foreign nation. And they went into a constitutional clause that precludes that. And it's the constitutional limits are Article 1, Section 10, the doctrine of foreign affairs and preemption says no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, and that no state shall, without the consent of Congress, enter into an agreement, compact with another state or with a foreign power. And they're basically saying by signing that letter of support and backing this initiative, that's the same thing. And you essentially have committed an unconstitutional act. And I remember watching this, and I'm a big environmentalist, but I was against this accord because it is not about the environment. It barely touches on the environment. A lot of the environmentalists will say, yeah, well, it's the beginning. It's the beginning because we were getting a lot of our sovereignty and control over stuff. So it was the beginning, and then they could push on and add on more initiatives on there. Here's the issue. You got countries like Turkey. Erdogan. He wants to pull out of this accord. Now he's saying, I want to pull out because I'm not getting the billions of dollars you were going to give me, basically, to enforce these climate changes. Who's going to give it to him? The United States. Well, if the United States isn't in there, we're not going to be giving them the money. And that's the bottom line. The United States was going to pay out most of this money, and we were going to enact a lot of the provisions within there. And a lot of our sovereignty would have been taken away. It would have been controlled by this Paris Climate Change Accord. And their whole thing is getting rid of coal requirements and emissions. It goes on and on. If you research it, again, you're going to find out that it's more about basically going out there and the U.S. paying out a ton of money to bribe other countries to try and enact some type of pollution controls out there. And it would have been a big negative against us overall. There's other ways to control or to help sustain the environment without giving out our control, our sovereignty, our money, and all that perspective. I mean, when you got climate change policies out there that basically allow China and India and all these other countries to continue being these major polluters, but hit the United States hard. You've got to look at them and say, does that make sense? Back to this though, why would you sign it? Why would you sign something when you already got the same initiatives in place here? So why would you go out and say, hey, I'm Mayor Hollick, I'm the big guy on campus in this little city of Venice, and I'm going to sign this accord to show Trump, I'm going to show him, all right, that we were for it and we don't believe what he did. And, this article goes on. It's an interesting article. Check it out on my site, this uncensoredreport.com. But it says, why didn't states just get involved in cap and trade? It would have benefited them by adding more participants. They'd get a larger market share, and with that larger markets, they'd increase their economic efficiencies, they'd drive better consumer savings and emission reductions. And there would be no legal precedents to prevent states and cities from signing that. Again, I believe that most of these council members thought, well, we're just throwing our support behind it, and that's all we're saying. But that, in my mind, was big. You don't, as a city or state, say, well, screw our president, we're going to do this. You didn't see that happening under Obama. You didn't see it happening under a lot of presidents. But for now, they think, hey, it's Trump, let's do this. All right? That's my thought. What's yours? This has been Frankie Abbruzzino, covering the unconstitutional action of local governments like the city of Venice and their Hollick and his band of banditos.